It's time for Cats Talk Wednesday. Small town and big city joined forces. Vinny Hardy of Lynch, Kentucky, and Terry Brown of Louisville, Kentucky, team up to give you free-flowing, laid-back sports talk. Focus on Kentucky Wildcats, as well as pertinent information in the NBA, NFL, and Major League Baseball.
And that's what we do every week. I'm the small town Lynch, Kentucky guy, Terry TV Brown, the big city, Louisville, Kentucky guy. Come to y'all. Cats Talk Wednesday, YouTube, Roku, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeart, wherever you get all your podcasts. We coming in TV with a guest right off the bat, a friend of the show. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Met this young fella at the press box in Kroger Field. He was still with the Kentucky Colonel, if I'm not mistaken. He went on to do his thing in Montana for a minute out there in Big Sky Country. Came back, covered Western for a minute in Bowling Green, and is now up in Northern Kentucky covering the Cincinnati Bengals for Cleveland.com. If I left anything out, correct me. We got Mohammad Ahmad. Mohammad, man, what's up?
What's up, man? You got all of it, man. You got a good memory. You got the whole list in order. You had the Colonel, Montana, Bowling Green. I think the last time we talked was I was in Bowling Green. And I would think it was last summer. It might have been last June.
You were grilling out, if I recall correctly.
I was.
So, I remember
talk about
food.
memory. I was.
There we go.
Man. What was I grilling? Actually, I don't even know if you guys remember that.
I can't remember what you were grilling. I know we talked about.
I was smoking some chicken. I was like hanging a chicken. I think I have a pit barrel. I can't use it at my apartment now. I'm not allowed to smoke it. So when I moved up here, I dropped my smoker off at my mom's house. So whenever I go visit her, I just smoke stuff over there. But it makes it more worthwhile where you're not doing it all the time. You savor each moment.
Ooh,
there you
go. Oh, yeah. It doesn't become old hat. It tastes even better because you don't do it all the time. I got you.
Yeah, man. You know what's up.
Yeah, man. I think we were early for the football game when you were with the Colonel. Seemed like we were out in the lobby area watching the TV. Seemed like it was Bama and LSU or something. We were just killing time watching.
I think that's what it was.
And then Kentucky kicked off that evening, and like Brian Mullen was out there, and I met you for the first time, and so yeah, man. You've been a friend.
Yeah, they played Missouri, I think, right? Is that who they played?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I covered a lot of Missouri games up there. I got a lot of Missouri games.
Yeah, that game on the TV. Yeah, that was when Alabama and LSU played. That was the game of the century when LSU had Joe Burrow and Alabama had Tua Tagovailoa. That was crazy. I still think that's like one of the greatest games of the century that we've seen. It really is.
Yeah, the first 23 years now of this century. Yeah, it's got to rank up there. Sure.
Yeah, man, for sure. Crazy, man. That feels like yesterday. That was almost 3.5 years ago now. That's wild.
Yeah. Time just flies, man. We're glad to have you on here with us. And we got to talk some NFL. Look, TB is going to be fired up about his Niners, so just already don't be surprised when we hit NFL and he gets off on them.
I'm just glad Muhammad is here to help it because you're a Cowboys fan, and see he's covering the Bengals, and so we're going to explain to you what happens if you win your first game in the playoffs. We'll explain how the NFC Championship game works, the championship games, and the Super Bowl. Muhammad, I know I need you to help me with that.
I'll do what I can. I'll do what I can for sure.
It's been a while for us, and I must say we're limping into the playoffs now. That game against Washington was pitiful, and that's not what you want to see going into the playoffs when you won 12 games and have to go play an 8-9 win team because they won their division and they happen to be quarterbacked by Tom Brady. That's not what you want to see at playoff time. We're not playing our best ball. We're not peaking right now, but we'll see what happens Monday night.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I didn't actually watch that game because I was in Cincinnati covering the Ravens game when they played the Bengals, but I saw Dak had like a pick six and a pick, and I'm just like, I mean, that's whack. That's all I said was like, that's whack. But yeah, man, we'll see.
It's like he's not seeing the field. He almost threw a pick. Dude dropped it. And so the next play, they try to out the same receiver to the same dude. And this time he picked it and to the house with. So
Mm-hmm.
they got to clean it up. They, Mike McCarthy talking about reboot and go. Well, we'll see if we rebooting and going Monday night in Tampa.
For sure, for sure.
And give us the vibe in Cincinnati. You just ended the regular season with Baltimore, get a rematch with Baltimore, and considering Cincinnati started 0-2, one of those losses to my Cowboys way back in the first part of the season, they
Vinny, you were cutting out there for like the last 15 seconds.
Yeah, your audio, Vinny. I think he's just talking about the vibe. Uh oh, we got technical difficulties. We're just getting some static. But Muhammad, just the vibe around Cincinnati, it seems to be different. When I was growing up and through most of the '90s and 2000s, Cincinnati was just not great. They didn't expect it. They weren't very good. And then Marvin Lewis comes and he gets them to that 9-7, 8-8, kind of level. But now it feels a little bit different. It feels like Joey Burrow has kind of changed the outlook of the franchise and the city itself.
Yeah, man. I mean, you know, the way I put this, because it really is a collective effort. I mean, do I think most of it is Joe Burrow? Absolutely. I mean, I don't think there's any debate there. I do think what gets forgotten though, which I understand because like he is that iconic of a figure, is that you got to think about all the pieces that they built around him. Like, his first year, they didn't have Jamar Chase. Like, their defense was still developing. It wasn't as good as it is now. Like, Logan Wilson was a rookie. They had just brought in Von Bell from the Saints and DJ Reader from the Texans. Um, Jesse Bates was good, but I think he really kind of peaked last year and into this year. I think that's why they put the franchise tag on him because they know he's that good. Um, like I said, they got Chidobe Awuzie before last year, who I think was a very underrated corner for your Cowboys. I might add, Vinny. I think he was really solid. But when you've got Trevon Diggs and Orlando Scandrick, like they had at the time, I mean, it's easy to get kind of lost in the shuffle, and I think maybe he got overlooked a little bit, but I mean, he's solid. I mean, it's unfortunate, he tore his ACL against the Browns because, I mean, as good as Cam Taylor-Britt is, the rookie from Nebraska, like he was one of the best corners in man coverage all year. I think even better than like Jalen Ramsey at that point. Like especially now, I think even last year he was the only one not as good as Jalen Ramsey or like the best cornerback not named Jalen Ramsey, but no, to kind of go back to the point though, like he's great, he's solid, but you got to remember, like it was a process. I mean, even before Joe Burrow got there in 2020, Zach Taylor's first year, 2019. People think about that 2-14 year, which I mean that was why they were so bad. That's why they got the first overall pick. But you got to
Mhm.
remember they still had Tyler Boyd, who had 1,000 yards that year. They had Jesse Bates, who, like I said, is one of the best safeties in the league. They had Sam Hubbard, who is having the best year of his career at defensive end. He's a Cincinnati kid. You have those guys, and then you draft Jamar Chase. They drafted T. Higgins right after they drafted Joe Burrow in the second round. They bring in all those free agency signings that I mentioned, and they got more signings last year. They drafted Logan Wilson, who him and Jermaine Pratt. I mean, they're like the best duo, I think, not named Levante David and Devin White, in the league. So, but yeah, I mean, if we're just talking about Burrow, like it's his poise, it's his confidence, it's his ability to make adjustments on the fly. I think when we kind of saw, those first 5 games of the year where they had the 0-2 start, and then they lose to Baltimore, and they were 2-3, and then they were 4-4 after the Monday night game in Cleveland. I think it really started in the Baltimore game. After they lost to Baltimore, I think that's when we saw Joe Burrow better in cover two. I mean, if you look statistically, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league in cover two. And it's not just like two high safety looks. He's gotten better overall, but like that's one thing that stood out is they weren't used to a lot of those too high looks because like last year it was just throw the home run ball to Jamar Chase, throw a contested catch to T. Higgins, he'll win it more than half the time, and they can still do that. They've done that, but like it was different. They didn't do it as easily and as effectively as before. So that's the sign I think of an MVP caliber quarterback is how can you adjust? Whether it's the check downs or throwing up the middle or, just taking the long shot and trusting Jamar Chase and man coverage. Like, it's unbelievable what he's done. On the field, it's unbelievable. And the culture, like I said, I think a lot of it goes back to Zach Taylor. Once he came, he really changed a lot of the things that were left behind with, no disrespect to Marvin Lewis. But, I think kind of his last couple of years there, it just got to the point where it was like, I think people just kind of gave up. Like, he'd been there for 15, 16 years. They had a 3-year playoff drought after they lost to the Steelers in 2015. And it just seemed like it was a dead end. And I think Zach Taylor kind of got them out of that dead end and like opened the road again. It helps when you have Joe Burrow. I mean, like, I'm sure you could give him Justin Herbert or like, some guys like that, and they could do the same thing. But I still think with the way Zach Taylor runs that offense, with the personality Joe Burrow has, it's too good to be true. Like, I don't know how you see a team go from like 2-14, laughing stock of the NFL. Like, you got to remember at this point, I mean, the Bengals, you could say, oh, they were the Bungles in the 90s and they didn't win those playoff games with Marvin. But before Burrow got there, I think the relationship with the Bengals and the city of Cincinnati was the worst it had ever been.
Yeah.
I think it got to the point where, like, if they didn't change anything, then at that point, it's like you have to just accept that this is going to be the worst team in the NFL. And how crazy is it? It flipped to the total opposite, where they were 1/4 down away from maybe being the best team in the NFL had they won the Super Bowl. I think the last team I could think of that made that kind of a turnaround was like, you guys remember better than me because you're older, but I remember when the Panthers had Jake Delhomme. They were like 1-15, I think, like 2 years before they went to the Super Bowl, and then they almost beat Tom Brady in Houston. Like, I mean, that's the last team I could think of that did anything like that. I mean, that's
to go that
crazy
deep. You got to go to like even to Vinny's Cowboys, that they had to tear it all down because Landry at the end wasn't quite what Landry was. And then they hit that. I think it was 1-15. Vinny, is that right? 1-15.
One in Jimmy's first year, 1-15, 7-9, then 11-5. They get blown out by Detroit. That's the famous Barry Sanders run where Tony Casillas is facing backwards and Barry runs by him. And then the next year, Super Bowl.
Yeah, they beat who they beat in the NFC Championship game. Was that the Niners that year?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's what I was going to follow up with you, Mo. Is there's that moment where you're coming up from the ashes, and there's that moment. And I'm thinking for the Bengals, it was beating Kansas City at Kansas City. Where is that the moment where we look back 10 years from now and we say that's the moment? And I say that because, we talked about Franco Harris and his passing, and there's Pittsburgh before the Immaculate Reception, and then there's Pittsburgh after, right? We're 40 years removed from the catch. Sorry, Vinny. And there's San Francisco before the catch, and there's San Francisco after the catch. Is that moment of making Mahomes look pedestrian and Joe Burrow playing well, is this the moment where we look back and now you have to mention Cincinnati when you talk about top teams in the conference?
That's a great question, and I like the analogy you made. I just think it's hard to say that because, like, they had so many other moments before that. Like, you had the win against the Raiders. That was their first playoff win since, like, 1990 when I was -8 years old. Like, you had the win at Tennessee, which was their first ever road win in, like, team history in the playoffs. They had never won a road playoff game up to that point. Even the 2 years they went to the Super Bowl in the 80s, those were all home games. They didn't go on the road, and if they did, they lost. Their last playoff game they lost, that was before, the losing streak started. They lost in LA against Bo Jackson. So, like, they had not been a good road playoff team either before or after the 90s. And so, I mean, you had that. I mean, if you ask me, I think the moment would have been when they beat Mahomes in Cincinnati, because I think when they clinched the AFC North, and they did it in comeback style, it wasn't as good of a comeback, granted, as what they did in Kansas City to go to the Super Bowl. But when they had that comeback in Cincinnati, second half, to where, yeah, they actually did make Mahomes look pedestrian, and Joe Burrow had like one of the best games of his career in that game. You win the AFC North, you win the division for the first time in over 6 years, like 2 years removed from a 2-14 season. Burrow's first year as a full starter because, he tore his ACL his rookie year. Mm-hmm. It just seems like in that moment, that's when you knew, like, yeah, maybe this team couldn't win more than 2 games in a row. And yeah, they were 7-6 headed to Denver, and they even almost lost to Denver. But guess what? That 7-16 that almost lost to Denver, that's the old team. That's the old Bengals. Like the new Bengals, I think started in that moment because once they got to the season, the postseason, it was a new season. Like that 10-7 record, that was just a ticket. So that Chiefs game is where they punched that ticket to get into the new season. And then I think we saw kind of the effect of that where you have 3 straight wins, 2 of them on the road. And like I don't want to say this to downplay what they did in Kansas City. I honestly still can't believe it. Like I was there as a fan. I
That's
was
what
still in Bowling Green. I was there as a fan. I wasn't covering the team at the time. Like
that was what I thought. I saw
Yeah.
your Facebook post from Arrowhead and all that, and I was like, oh, that's cool. Mo went out to the game. I didn't know if it was as a fan or you're already switched and was on the beat. I didn't even know. But
No, I was a fan at the time, and that's why it's weird saying that because, like, I mean, I tell people all the time, even on the beat, like, I grew up a Bengals fan. Like, I don't hide that, and honestly, at heart, I'm still a fan. Now, obviously, when I do my work, I don't show that because we have to be neutral, we have to be professional. But I mean, since we're just kind of jiving on the podcast, I'll tell you that I was and still am a fan, and so like it is kind of weird. It's like code switching. You go from being a fan at Arrowhead to like now you could actually go back to Arrowhead as a journalist. Like that's gonna be so weird if the Bengals win their next 2 games and like they have to go at Arrowhead somehow, assuming like the Chiefs don't get upset in the divisional round. Like that would be the weirdest deja vu ever, and that would be a story that I think would blow a lot of people's minds because they'd be like, you went from being at Arrowhead as a fan to being a reporter. Like, I think people would just be stunned by that. But
tell us
no, I know
about
I got way off
Arrowhead.
topic there, but no, I'd say the moment for me was when they beat the Chiefs in Cincinnati, because I think that moment in Kansas City came because of that, and all the success came because of that. Like, does that kind of make sense?
Oh yeah, like I said, I just always you can just with Franco Harris recently passing, and like I said, the anniversary of the catch. There's those moments that they mean more than we just won this game or we just go to the playoffs, where there's kind of a change. And in Cincinnati, as you said, Cincinnati is a very proud sports town. It
Yeah,
really is. And as far as sports towns go, the fans have deserved better than the Bengals have produced for the majority of 30 years.
absolutely.
And so I enjoy seeing it because I mean I'm not a Cincinnati fan or anything like that, but just seeing the Cincinnati Bengals fans, the long-suffering Bengals fans, now they've got something to cheer about, right? It's not just
Yeah.
we're not just happy to be here. No, we're here and going to make some noise, and that's what I like seeing from afar.
And Mo knows the history, man. Mo went way back to before he was born. Got all that history down pat. And
You talking about the two Super Bowls?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
2 Super Bowls they did go to and they lost. I don't know who they lost to. Who they lose to?
Boy,
They lost to the 49ers both times.
Did they really?
Yep,
Hold
they
on.
lost to Joe Montana both times. First one was in.
Yeah. You
Well,
talking about
yeah,
Super Bowl 23, right? Super Bowl 23 where Jerry Rice was the MVP, 11
that was
catches.
the second one.
Right, 11
The
catches,
first one
215
was
yards and a touchdown. Yeah, he was MVP.
the first one was
so,
Super Bowl 15. That was at
Yes.
the or Super Bowl 16, I believe. That was at the Pontiac.
Silverdome.
That's at
Is
the
at the
Silver
Silverdome,
Dome in
right?
Detroit, which is gone now. But
Right,
yeah,
but I just
they had.
because Jerry. Okay, all right.
I
Well,
told
they
you, no.
they had Jerry for the second one. Jerry wasn't there for the first one. He was
Yeah.
still in college.
He was. Yeah, I'm Super Bowl 23, one of my favorite Super Bowls. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, it's one of the great. I mean, that's one of the greatest. Like, I mean, it's kind of what's kind of sad is like you think about Cooper Cup's touchdown in the Super Bowl when they played the Bengals in February last year. Like, I mean, it's kind of similar to what John Taylor did when he caught that touchdown with like a minute left, and then Bengals tried to go downfield and they couldn't do it. And then with the Rams Super Bowl, they couldn't do it. Aaron Donald got to Joe Burrow on fourth down, and Samaje
Yeah.
Perine couldn't get that short pass. Like, man, that is a scary parallel. And what's even crazier too is like the final score of that game in Miami was 2016 49ers.
It was. Yeah.
The Bengals were up 2016 before Cooper Cup had that touchdown. Man, like there's just some cruelty there. I don't know what it is, fate or
Yeah.
I don't know, man. That's some cruel fate right there.
Super Bowl 23. Anyway, go ahead,
Hey,
Vinny. You had a question.
Tell us about Arrowhead since you've been there. I haven't been there. Just the vibe from that fan perspective. You're always annually one of the loudest stadiums in the league. The history and the Kansas City fans, Chiefs Kingdom, the whole thing. you've been there and seen it and done it all. Tell us about that whole scene out there.
Man, you're not kidding. That is the loudest. I'm not even just gonna say stadium. That's the loudest place I've been in my life. Like I'm not joking when I say in the fourth quarter, like my ears were literally hurting. It is. I don't know if it's the architecture. I mean, I don't know if it's the crazy drunken fans who were there. Because oh my gosh, there were. I mean, it's a football game. There's gonna be drunk fans, but man, the drunkenness mixed with the fact that like it was to go to the Super Bowl, mixing with the fact that like again that place is probably engineered some type of way. That was just a really really loud place, but it hurts my ears. I mean, it was worth it. I'd love if I went deaf from that game, it would have been worth it. But um,
But when you're
no,
leaving, when it's
it hurt
quiet,
my
what about
ears.
that? When
What's up?
when you when you're leaving and the fans are now quiet, that's got to be something great as well.
Well, I will say this. It was kind of funny because when McPherson kicked the game-winning field goal in overtime, and I was actually recording as he did it. I was like sobbing, like crying. Like not that I'm not an emotional person. I'd say I'm actually a very emotional person, but like for me to cry tears of joy takes a lot. And I was just like so happy because I thought about all those times as a kid where I was like, the Bengals are never gonna do it. Like, you had Tom Brady, you had Peyton Manning, you had Ben Roethlisberger. Like, I was like, even if the Bengals had won a playoff game, they were never gonna get past them. They were never gonna get past the greatest of all time or the guy who owned them in the division, or even Joe Flacco, who already had a Super Bowl. Like, and so for them to do it after all that suffering, and then for me, like I was going through some personal stuff because I had gone through the tornadoes a month earlier in Western Kentucky, and I think I was just kind of grateful to be alive. So like it was a
Yeah.
mixture of that, and a mixture of like the inner child of me that was just like happy to see that happen. I was crying, and it was awkward because like there's like some Bengals fans in my section who were like grown men crying tears of joy too, and you have these Chiefs fans who are just like walking out, like looking at us like we're crazy. And I'm just like, I felt kind of bad because, like, I mean, what are they supposed to do? Like, oh, our team's not going to the Super Bowl, yours is. But I will say this, there were some extremely nice fans. They were saying, I hope Burrow wins MVP. I hope you guys win it. Like, I did not see any toxic fans. Like, no one was just like, oh, you stole the game or the refs did this or that. Like, hey, they were just like, hey, Joe Burrow's the real deal. Like, you guys are the real deal. Like, go to LA, go beat whoever's going to be in it. Like, you guys deserve this. And I was just like, you know, I gotta say, Chiefs fans are some of the best fans in the NFL. Like they were classy. I mean, they had every reason not to be, but they chose to be. So it's quiet. It was awkward, but it was nice. If that makes sense.
Awesome.
And when the Chiefs rallied from that 10-point deficit to beat Terry's 49ers in the Super Bowl and win their first Super Bowl in about 50 years, I'm sure there were several Chiefs fans that were grown men, tears of joy, just like you when Cincinnati beat Kansas City and Arrowhead. So they they were in your position just a few months prior. That's
You see
all.
how he did that?
Yeah.
You see how he had to bring up before the 49ers lose the Super Bowl?
You
I
gotta
cried tears at the end of that Super Bowl too.
Got you there. But I think that's what it is, though. Is like you made that example of the Chiefs going to the Super Bowl and winning it, because like I mean the Bengals and the Chiefs were like two of the worst franchises forever. Like I mean if you go farther back, the Chiefs were terrible. From like the last time they went to the Super Bowl in like 1971, whenever they had uh, Len Dawson, like up
Yeah.
to 2020, they were horrible. I
They
mean,
they
like there were
had
times where they had Tony Gonzalez, they won a few division titles, but
yeah.
yeah,
Well,
like they
they
had never made like an AFC championship. Like that AFC championship they made with like Patrick Mahomes in 2019, the year before they won it. That was the first time they made it since like they had Joe Montana. Because I know Joe Montana, he took them, I think, to that level. Like when he left the 49ers, went to Kansas
yeah
City, he almost took them to two Super Bowls, but like they never made it. They still
yeah.
didn't make it. Like so
Those Marty
besides that,
Schottenheimer teams are pretty good. They were just good enough to get into the playoffs.
and that
Mhm.
was like the Bengals, and that was it. They'd probably win a game and they'd get to the AFC championship like they did with Joe Montana, but that was it. No
Yeah, because
Super
they
Bowl,
had
no
Derek
championship.
Thomas and Christian Okoye and
Still
Yeah.
wasn't enough. Tony Gonzalez,
yeah,
Trent Green,
yeah. They had some dudes, Vinny.
We got to get you
Dwayne
back
Bowe.
on.
Yeah,
We got to get you back on, Mo, and when your schedule allows, and then do this
Yeah.
again, man. Always fun chopping it up with you. Our next guest is backstage in the Biz3 Network Green Room, but we will keep on checking out your work for Cleveland.com. Playoffs are finally here. NFL fans are excited. This weekend is going to be crazy. Saturday all the way through Monday night. All these great matchups. Looking forward to your coverage, man. And I always appreciate you for making time to hop on the podcast with us. Got your Twitter handle right there. We'll tweet it out when we're done. And, man, just keep doing what you're doing. And we always enjoy chopping it up with you, man.
Yes, sir.
It's always a pleasure here too, man. And I will say, for I don't know if you guys know, and for those who don't know, if you guys want the best insights and exclusives on everything on the Bengals, we do a podcast too through Cleveland.com. It's called Strictly Stripes, two words, Strictly Stripes. You can get it anywhere: iHeartRadio, Spotify, Megaphone, Apple, wherever you guys get your podcasts. Strictly Stripes is there. Make sure you subscribe. We chalk it up 5 days a week. Me and my two partners. I host the podcast, but we have a lot of fun with it. We have a little fun, little entertainment. We get into some analytics, but yeah, if you want some exclusive Bengals content, make sure you tune in. Strictly Stripes podcast.
Yes, sir, man. Appreciate you letting everybody know about it, man.
Absolutely, but I appreciate you guys having me on soon because this is fun. It's nice to get a break from everything and chop it up with two old timers. I always enjoy it.
I'm gonna need the old timer thing to go, but appreciate you.
Yeah. It's time for you to go, guys. I appreciate it, man. Mohammad Ahmad, Cleveland.com, Strictly Stripes, giving you all things Bengals. And man, to be that young, he got the history down pat. Our next guest, TB, we've been talking about this for a few months. Been excited to have her on. Her reputation precedes her, man. Now look, we getting all this high praise. And friend of the show, our homegirl, Anna Tarullo. This is Anna's homegirl. Anna talking up this young lady all the time. So we finally get to have her on with us. Sierra Newton from BBN Tonight. Sierra, how are you?
Hello. I'm good. How are you all?
We can't complain.
Thank you for joining us. Like you said, you come heavily recommended, so we're glad that you are able to carve out a little bit of time to visit with us today.
Thank you for having me. Hopefully I live up to the hype, but I'm very excited, very honored to be here.
Yeah, definitely appreciate it because, Anna's good people. And every time we see on Twitter, she tweeting out, showing love to you. And she's like, y'all got to have Sierra on. And like, we definitely got to do it. So, and then, you not stalking your Twitter, but, see you and following your stuff. You did the Antonio Reeves tribute earlier in the season with the hair, the Reeves look going on. That was cool. So you got the fashion, you got the sports. You just versatile and got it all. Sounds like.
Thank you. I like to mix it up a bit, keep it fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So you got, Muhammad is up there covering the Bengals in Cincinnati. You got Northern Kentucky ties and roots as well, right?
Yes, I do. I graduated from NKU 2020, spring 2020, the fun year, the best year to graduate from school. And what's funny is I actually met Muhammad while I was in school. We met at a National Association of Black Journalists conference at NABJ. So it was very funny how you all also had him on and me at the same time. So super cool. But yes, Northern Kentucky, go North, North up, all that fun stuff.
Yeah, hey man, that university, we're not telling you anything, but they're doing things. The university is coming. TB, I think like Mark Berger's the only NKU person I knew, and and he's older than us. We old, but he older than us, Sierra. And then they're doing things, making a tournament run, and you see them playing basketball. You see them beating Cincinnati. You see the new arena, and I mean NKU is just a force up there, and maybe not a lot of the state knows, but they deserve some respect on their name, I do believe.
For sure. It's awesome. 2016 was my first year going there, and that was the first year we were eligible to go to the NCAA tournament, Division I. And that we actually played Kentucky that year. We ended up losing by like 10 points. But to me, in my book, I'm like, hey, that's a win. Our first year in, game, we made it. Yeah, we made it a close game the whole time. It was nice. It was entertaining. And it was really cool to see because, growing up in the state of Kentucky, the majority of people grow up Kentucky fans. So to also see a lot of students be like, I want to root for Kentucky, but NKU North Up, I got to go for it. That was super cool to watch and be a part of. And then my sophomore year, the end of my sophomore year, I started writing for the student newspaper up there, and then became the sports editor my senior year. So it was a lot of fun to also be able to follow those teams from a more journalistic standpoint than just being a general basketball fan. So it was really cool.
That's all right. So you from Kentucky or?
I am. I'm from Frankfort, good old capital. So I've been here my whole life. Love this place. But I do have to admit that I did not grow up a Kentucky fan, but we don't have to talk about that right now because might ruffle some feathers.
Neither did Terry. So you
okay, cool.
Yes, I grew up in Louisville. I was the first person in my family to branch out and see the light on I-64. I was driving to Lexington one day, and I would go past Frankfort, and I saw the light, and I turned my life around, and I decided to root for the blue instead of the red. So it's never too late to turn your life around, is what I tell folks.
Right, yeah.
So were you rooting for Louisville or Cincy or as a kid?
As a kid, I grew up rooting for the Cards. You
Okay.
know, it was definitely the Dirty Birds. You know, that's where the family is into Louisville and everything. So growing up, that's the team I rooted for. Then when I went to NKU, I was like, now I don't have to be a part of it. I can just say North Sub and no one can argue with me, you know? So
that's all right.
A little break for a moment.
yeah, because it's nonstop. We all
It is.
The red blue is always going on. You go to the family reunion, you go to Louisville, or I'm from southeastern Kentucky. So when the Louisville family would come, it was whatever, it was always getting stirred up. My dad and his brother, even in the 80s when it was Joe B and Denny Crum, if Louisville would win, my uncle was calling my dad as soon as the game was over. If Kentucky won, my dad was calling my uncle. It's nonstop. We
nonstop.
All, yeah. Always.
And now here you are with BBN Tonight, which has become kind of a must see because Vinny's in Tennessee. I'm in Iowa of all places, but it's great to check in and see what you folks are doing every day. So how did you end up working at BBN Tonight?
Yeah, so I started actually working in the newsroom, and I was a digital content producer for the news side of things. So working on the website, sending any push alerts, all the social media for the news station, I was a part of that aspect. And then August of 22, the associate producer position became open, and with my previous background, sports is always something that I knew I wanted to do long term. So I was like, I think this is my shot at jumping back into sports and being able to cover the things that I love the most. So I applied and I got it, and it's really awesome. I get to write, I get to edit pieces together, I get to help shoot, I get to do a lot of different things. So I get to use all the talents that I learned in school, which is not always what people are able to do, once they go into their career field or career path. So I really get to do a lot of different things, and it's every day's different. And I really like that a lot. And I get to use my creativity too.
And the one thing I like that you folks do so well is men's basketball, for right or wrong. That publicity takes care of itself, right? That's even football. But you give the other athletes on campus, of which they're championship level, they're compete, but you shine a bright light on everything else going on in Lexington at UK.
Yes, we do our best to. And even still, even though we do reach a lot of the different sports and athletes on campus, there's definitely we could still talk to these people more, go to these events more. It's that constant just wanting to do more for them, because they all deserve equal spotlights, because there are some amazing athletes that I think that if we were able to give more time to, everyone would love them just as much as we love the men's basketball team or women's basketball team and football and everything else. But yeah, I really like being able to meet all these different athletes and sharing parts of their story.
That's a good problem to have, right?
Yes. You'd rather have too much coming in than not enough.
Yeah.
Right. You don't want to be like my hometown school, Vinny, where most of the stuff coming out of Louisville is bad stuff.
Mhm.
I gotta throw a shot every now and then, right?
Yeah. Scandals and Friday evening news dumps that they don't want nobody to see. You know, it's
It's like Friday, 5 p.m. No one's gonna talk to us about this.
We're gonna slide this on out here.
Because I mean, if we don't know the pulse of every school in every state, you know, the primary university, but you know, Kentucky's the primary school in Kentucky. I'm here outside of Knoxville. There is no Vol Nation tonight. There's no Big Orange tonight doing this nightly like you all are doing. I don't know if you know Ohio got some kind of Buckeye tonight. I mean, as far as passionate fan bases comparable to us, y'all might be the only one doing what y'all do on a nightly basis. I can't say that with certainty about every single state, but the fact that there's enough passion and support and interest for you and Anna and Keith and Maggie and everybody that's there to do your thing and still be like, man, we need to try to get some coverage over here. We need to try to do that. I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's really cool to be a part of. And when I got this job, you know, my mom was like, Sierra, I just don't think you get how like big of a deal this is. Like, this is being a part of Kentucky athletics, period, is like, you know, you're going to be able to share stories that are going to be a part of history one day. And it's just really interesting to hear that perspective, because I'm like, this is just a job and I love sports and I get to like talk about sports and have fun when I go to work. But she's like, this is something that is so different and so unique, and like not a lot of people get this kind of opportunity. So, you know, she was just really excited to be able to say that, like, you know, I'm a part of something like that. So it's really cool and it's truly a blessing, and I just love it so much.
So mom hit you with that big picture perspective, didn't
yes. She's really good at that.
Don't moms always hit you with something? You'd be like, look what I did. And then it's something profound. Like, well, I didn't really think about that, but now that you mentioned it, sure, why not?
Sure, yeah, we'll add that on there too. Yeah, that sounds good.
Absolutely. So you talked about how you get to use all your talents, you get to use all your creativity. I don't know if it's even fair to ask, what's been your most fun thing, your most fun project, your most memorable thing you've done? Is it possible to even narrow it down to something that stands out or since you've been there so far?
Yeah, right now, and it's still like very fresh because we were talking about it today. This is like, I've only been like 5 months in and I've already done so much. I will say it was really cool being able to help host the women's basketball's blue-white game that they had. And I wasn't able to make it in that day for personal reasons. And she was like, hey, Sierra, would you be willing to step in and like host? And all you have to do is, you know, just interact with the crowd and speak to the basketball players. And so that was just super cool, because that's not something that I thought I would be doing, especially this early on. You know, in this position, I just thought I'd be behind the scenes the entire time, but Anna was cool enough to be like, no, you can do this too. Like, you're capable, you have the personality and you have the skills to do it. So, you know, I'd love for you to come and do this position. And it was a lot of fun. And it was also cool to be able to see the team, you know, before the season got started, because I was new. And then obviously we all know the women's basketball team had 10 new people, So it was a good opportunity for all of us to learn each other that day. So that was really cool. But there's still a lot of other cool things that I've done too. So, but that was probably the main one.
Yeah. So, you know, look, Anna said that you were her hero. So of course she knew that you could do it. She tweeted that out today. So
yeah, she's so sweet. She's always hyping me up, and I do the same for her, But yeah, love her.
And that was going to be my question is, I think, Vinny, I think we now have had everybody that works on BBN tonight on the show.
I think we got to get Eli.
We're still missing one.
Eli Game, but everybody else, I think we had them.
But it just seems like a big family. Like and I guess that's the appeal of the show behind the scenes. It just seems like one big family. There's a lot of stuff that you just can't fake. Like,
Right.
I'll be watching something on TV, Vinny. I'm like, good and well, these people don't hang out. When the camera's off, everybody goes a separate way, which is fine. Sometimes it's a job. I get that. But I've known Keith for a while since I started. But those people just all together and individually, one, seem like really good people, and two, it just seems like, for lack of better phrasing, a family.
It is for sure. They're like, we have hung out multiple times outside of work, and it's not just I guess I should invite someone. It's genuinely like every time I'm thinking of, okay, what am I doing this weekend? What are you guys doing this weekend? You want to hang out? So it's super cool to be able to enjoy working with everyone, because I've definitely worked at places in the past where I'm just coming in, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, and I'm getting out. Like, I'm not interested in speaking to people. And that's tough for me because I like to talk and I like to be friends with everyone that I'm working with. So it was super easy to just fall in with everyone. And the other thing, everyone genuinely wants to see each other grow and get better. And I think that also adds to it too. It's just whatever opportunity or whatever moment that someone can take to help you grow, that's also something that happens. And I genuinely love and respect everyone for being like that.
Mm-hmm. I always kid them because we had Christy on, we had Anna on, and we had Jesse on too. And I make fun of them or tease them about, it was the clip. They're talking about Luke Fortner coming back, to play another year at UK. And Christy said Luke Fortner comes back for his bicentennial year, because making fun of how old he was. And Anna just, because, Christy got jokes. Anna almost kind of reprimanded Christy on that. She went, Christy, sound like a mom. Like, I'm so disappointed in you. But I was rolling. And Christy was like, I didn't think it would be that funny. If it was, I should have taken credit for it. But Jesse wrote that in. He slipped that little joke in, and Christy read it. And so I tweeted at him, and but that one, just the way he's always throwing jokes in there on the slide for y'all, man, trying to just.
He does. He is a jokester. He's really good at just throwing little jabs or little shots in there that are gonna make people laugh. And that's what, even reading through the show, like, reading and you're expecting another stat to pop up or something, and it's just Jesse saying something that's a little quip or something. So yeah, it's really cool. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's your next project? What you got, something that you're focusing on? Well, we all know that the basketball team struggling is the big focus, but you got anything that you got in the works that you're about to hit us with, or what's coming down the pipe for you?
As of right now, we don't have anything specific that we're working towards. Tonight at 7:30, Keith does have a little mini series, we're calling it, of seniors, Kentucky football seniors / super seniors, because a couple guys announced that they're coming back. So Keith has been able to sit down with them and do a little one-on-ones. Tonight we have Tavion Robinson's, and that's going to be really good. So that's the most recent thing we have coming up. But hopefully the Cats can figure some things out and get it going, so we can have a little more positive storylines.
We need some joy in Mudville right now.
Yes,
man,
yeah, for sure.
It's rough, but it's going back to what TB said. It's so cool how y'all cover all the teams. You get the access to the coaches. Vince Merrill comes in. Cameron Mills is in studio. Jack Givens is in studio, and reaching out to the former players that are covering the Cats, in addition to the current players, in addition to the coaches. So y'all just, as much as there is, y'all have a good grasp on everything. As to, we think maybe the folks need to hear about this. Maybe we need to do it. So yeah, I mean, just props to y'all. And like TV also said, us being out of state, we can just tune in and watch, just like we're still in Kentucky. It's just testament to the great work y'all are doing each and every day, man.
Yeah, because your mother was right. Kentucky, Big Blue Nation, it's just different. I've tried to explain to people, Vinny, there's no Hawkeye tonight, right? Like, it's just different. You would not think, and I've had this conversation with many folks, that a state the size of Kentucky would be able to sustain this, like a show like this or whatever it is. You wouldn't think that, but we different in Kentucky.
Right, exactly. And thank you so much for tuning in and sticking with us. It just means so much that you guys take the time to watch our show. And it's like, and like you said, BBN is just different. And it just means so much to know that people are, tuning in from all over. And it's not just the people here in Kentucky. So it means a lot.
When we say Big Blue Nation, pardon my language, damn it, we mean Big Blue Nation.
Right.
It ain't just a group. We're not a group. We're not a fan base. It's an absolute nation. So y'all are doing great work.
And thanks to you and everybody that's as busy as y'all are, y'all take time to hop on here with us. Because, like you said, we're not trying to brag, but we have had most of everybody there. Keith and Christy and you and Anna and Maggie and Jesse and we got to get Eli, I think. But for the most part,
we have a new photographer now. His name's Nick Lazaroff. I'm gonna throw him out there next, so that way you all can really check everyone.
We complete the collection.
Yes. All the Infinity Stones. That's what you all have. That's what we are. We're the Infinity Stones.
That's a movie reference, Vinny.
Thank you.
Yes,
thank you.
Marvel.
Yeah, he doesn't watch. Vinny doesn't watch movies. Last movie he saw in the movie theater was Boomerang. So
I'm kind of bad.
You've gotta watch Marvel. Marvel, you can. I'm sure you can span that out into like months, probably, if you actually watch it in chronological order. But
I've seen a few.
You've seen a few? Okay, good.
Some of the Guardians of the Galaxies. Of course, Black Panther. Hold up now. Now, see, I'm bad about.
You sound like an old man right now, Vinny. You sound like somebody, Uncle.
Uncle Thor, I said a couple of Thor movies, the Ragnarok.
The man with the hammer. Okay. You know who I'm talking about.
That one
with the
guy.
Hammer. He fly with the electricity.
When he got fat and he let himself go. I seen that one.
Okay.
Yes, all right. I love the synopsis. This is good. I think I should just have you do the summaries of the movies.
Yeah. Vinny, I would like that a lot. Movies.
Yes.
Try to figure out what he's talking about.
So many blockbusters I have missed. I'm bad. Terry clowns me all the time, Sierra, and I deserve every bit of clowning I get. So it's I got to get with it somehow. Maybe it's Ant-Man. Maybe this new Ant-Man coming. I might try to watch that or something. Because the kids watch.
I'll have to check back in.
Definitely have to have you back on.
You are not 85 years old, Vinny. You are not 85.
I'm gonna try to do better, a little bit better. I'm gonna try. But we definitely gotta have you back on again, Sierra. We thoroughly enjoyed you taking time while you're eating to hop on here with us. Two dudes you don't even know, and just because Anna said something about us and you're like, okay, I'll do it, and you did it, and we sure appreciate it.
Thanks. I appreciate you all. Obviously, if Anna said you all are good people, I was like, well, then obviously I have to do it. Like that's all there is. So.
But tell her and everybody, hey, next time you see them, and
I will.
We'll be watching as always.
All right.
Thank you.
Sierra.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Have a good night.
Sierra Newton, associate producer, BBN tonight, TB. So we got Mo and Sierra in here. I'm getting that look like I'm in trouble or something, but we discussed it. You're
You with these movies. We gonna get you the what? He got the hammer. He got the, okay. All right.
See, I watch you and Ben and all them review movies and documentaries of it.
Yeah. But that new Ant-Man looks good. But I guess we got to pick up with the basketball team, men's basketball, man.
Got ugly quick, man.
It got ugly. It's ugly. So here's the thing. It's complicated.
Yeah.
One, there's a lot of things that can be true at the same time. I do believe long-term Kentucky basketball is going to be okay because it has been. We got the want to and all this kind of stuff. My concern has always been these last couple of years, people wanting to get rid of Cal. You have to be prepared for that drop-off. You've got to be prepared for that dip, right? And a few years ago, when we were still Elite 8 level,
2020.
I didn't think that was going to be I didn't think most people were like, okay, we're going to take that. I'm prepared for that big dip that's going to come. You know me. I am not reactionary. I am not negative. But as I tweeted last night, any rebuild is going to be better than what we saw last night. We are to that point now where the boxer has stayed too long. And now you have people coming in trying to make their names off the boxers, right? We've seen that with Ali. We saw it with Tyson, Sugar Ray, like just about every boxer, right? We have seen that become the thing. And that's no good. It's not so much that we're losing, it's the how, and it's the lack of respect, man. These teams don't respect us right now,
and got no reason to.
And I can't be mad about it.
Yeah,
I see people. Well, other teams are struggling. Other teams ain't Kentucky. And I've tried to explain to various people in various chat rooms or DM groups, whatever that I'm in. Kentucky is different because Kentucky, just a few years ago, we were beating their favorite team, and before that, Kentucky was beating their daddy's team. And before that, Kentucky was beating the granddaddy's team. And if you ever look at, there's a website that's got all the AP listings. I got it somewhere saved, but the first AP poll, Kentucky's number 2. Utah was number 1, and it's like CCNY, and it's a bunch of this stuff. I say that to say Kentucky's been doing this for a long time.
Yeah.
Duke is a big name, but Duke is not Kentucky. Because the rarity of Kentucky being this kind of cover your eyes bad, that's rare.
Yeah.
So long term, Kentucky will be fine. My concern is, I understand the notion we can bring a dude here to win. I get that. 5 coaches have won championships here. That's amazing. But you look at Alabama football as an example. They have just as much want to be good as Kentucky. When fans like Nate and even like Nate Oates, the comparison is always Kentucky basketball, Alabama football fans for right or wrong, the entitlement, the want to, the crazy, the this, the that, right?
Yeah.
I caution people, if you say Nick Saban is the best college football coach ever, you got an argument, right? You can make that argument. You can also say major college football, Bear Bryant ain't no lower than 3rd, right? Bear Bryant retired in 82. Saban gets there in 07. That's 30 years of being mediocre. I know they won a championship in 93.
Yeah.
But when you and I were coming of age, Alabama football did not matter.
Nope.
Not in the way it has for the last decade, and not what it did in the 50s and 60s with Bear Bryant, or through the 70s, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
So our Kentucky fans, we're going to get the next great coach.
Mm-hmm.
My concern is the process to do it. How is that going to look? The lesson that, I've heard here, before last night, because last night for me was just, it's inexcusable. You get boat raced at Bama, sub 500 South Carolina, 245 in the net ratings come to town, and you start off down 7-2.
Lost at home to Tennessee by 40. They scored 42 points in 40 minutes at home against Tennessee. Dropped 42 on us in the first half.
Right.
I mean,
right. So there's something going on, but everybody, if we accept losing, then we become Indiana. And see, now you're making me defend Indiana fans and Tennessee fans and Nebraska football fans when I don't want to do it. That's not the lesson to be learned. The lesson is when things went south with a good coach like Indiana and Bob Knight, when Tom Osborne stepped down in Nebraska, and when Philip Fulmer left Tennessee, the fans kind of said, okay, we are not tolerating this. That was what nobody said we enjoy being mediocre.
Right.
But what happens is when you let the craziest people in your fan base dictate things, you can create a toxic culture that prevents winning. Mike Davis takes over for Bob Knight.
Yeah.
Goes to the 0-2 title game, and they never embraced that dude.
No.
Never embraced him.
Nope.
Never. And now you're stuck. I think Kelvin Sampson, had they held on to Kelvin Sampson, that might have been a thing. But now you're chasing Tom Crean and Miller and
Miller, yeah.
And all this kind of stuff because you're trying to find that dude. And it's, again, I've said for a long time, Kentucky fans, we assume there's not going to be a drop-off. I say to folks, we've had 5 coaches, the last 5 coaches have each been at the minimum conference coach of the year, even Billy Gillispie.
Yeah.
You want to roll the dice and say the next dude will be as good as that? I don't like the odds on that. And this was before last night, would say, do I think we could find another championship level coach right now, or do I think Coach Cal can get back to championship level?
Before last night,
I was like, well, I take my chances on Cal getting there.
Yeah.
After last night, it can't be any worse than this.
Right. Considering who you lost to, yeah. You're not going
to. And for me, the loss to South Carolina, I don't like speaking in extremes. Probably the worst loss I remember sitting through because of everything leading up to it, how it started, how it went.
Yeah.
That to me was concerning. Now, look, I know Billy Gillispie lost to VMI. We lost to Santa Barbara.
Gardner-Webb, San Diego.
Right, San Diego. I get that. Every coach has had that. But if I'm being honest, those Billy Gillispie years, I was not sold that team was going to a Final Four.
Right. Well, that's
And you can't do this with the when you have the first unanimous MVP or player of the year on the team, you can't get this. This can't be the result. All these other losses were the roster wasn't this good. We didn't have the SEC assist leader. Casey Wallace is still a dude. CJ Frederick, still a dude. He balled out last night on his return, right? So this was just as disheartening a loss as I've seen. Me personally, I am not that upset about St. Peter's because sometimes poop happens.
Yeah.
Sometimes you lose. And this in Kentucky, again, the university, you got to get one, right? So there's that aspect. So long term, we're fine. Short term, do I want to go through what Indiana has gone through to find the next guy? I do not.
No.
The folks, you and I have had this discussion before, talking about, well, Josh Heupel overnight. No. There was a long, long time between Philip Fulmer and Josh Heupel. Dooley and I can't even remember all of them, right?
Yeah.
Butch Davis, right?
Butch Jones, Lane Kiffin.
Butch Jones, Lane Kiffin for a season. Like
whatchamacallit, Pruitt from Jeremy Pruitt. Oh, we're getting Nick Saban, defensive coordinator. We back. No, you're not.
Right.
That was their mindset. Well, he was on Saban's staff. He gonna turn us around.
Right. And then you look at Nebraska football. Oh, we got Bill Callahan. We got Bo Pelini. We got, we're gonna bring Osborne back. Not Osborne.
Solich, Frank.
Well, Solich is the one they kicked out.
Okay.
That started
Frost.
all this.
Scott Frost.
Frost is coming back. Like,
yeah.
So again, I still believe long term Kentucky's going to be fine. I have no doubt about it. But my concern is we have had championship gaps when we were doing things at a very high level.
Yeah.
Honestly, going from Rupp to Hall, not that big a drop. I've had this discussion with folks, talking about what's going on at Duke. I'm not talking about just replacing, a Hall of Fame coach, which is difficult, right? I'm talking about replacing the coach with his name on the building.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, think about that. You, Joe B. Hall, you trying to do your thing, and now you got to open up the building that was named after your boss. I mean, think about that.
Yeah.
And to still have that success. So Eddie Sutton, really good coach, a lot of personal demons, really good coach. We saw what he did at Oklahoma State, which hasn't done a whole lot before or since.
Yeah.
Right. Or I should say since. I know Iba and all that. But my point is we've had really, really good coaches.
Yeah. He had Arkansas with Sidney Moncrief before he was born. He was
right.
He did that.
And then you go to Pitino, right? Who may be the best X's and O's coach Kentucky's ever had. Right. And then Tubby, who I think is an underrated coach. Right. Billy Gillespie. Okay. That's your aberration. And then you got Cal. We've had all these coaches. Pitino, Hall of Fame, Cal, Hall of Fame, Rupp, Hall of Fame. I kind of think Joe B belongs in there, but that's another. We had all these Hall of Fame coaches, and we still had gaps of 20, 18, 14 years between championships. My concern is how is the next coach going to come in? Because like with Indiana and with Alabama and Nebraska, Kentucky fans, and myself included, we don't need to shake up everything to be middle of the pack in the SEC. That's not what we're doing. That ain't it. Because I know everybody, 10 loss Tubby, all this kind of stuff. Now remember, there was SEC media days when Tubby Smith felt himself a little bit because at that point, he had 5 regular season SEC championships and 5 tournament titles.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, all I know is at the end of the year, we get a box from SEC headquarters. So what's going to happen if we go, we need Corey Price on here, because I don't know that Kentucky's ever gone 3, 4, 5 years without winning anything in the SEC.
Mm-hmm.
Don't let that happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good.
Even probation, I think the gap was maybe 3 years. And the third year, the team was good enough to win, but was on probation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep.
So my concern is we let the crazies run this.
Mm-hmm.
And we end up in a situation where this coach 2 or 3 years, this coach 2 or 3 years, this coach 2 or 3 years. That's my fear. That's the lesson I'm taking from Indiana, because again, it never was about the IU administration, the fans, the boosters being okay with mediocre. Do you know how stupid that sounds? Well, they just accepted winning. No, they didn't. They were losing and became irrelevant.
And was continually grasping that whole time and flailing and missing and swinging and missing and swinging and missing.
Oh, you're in Tennessee right now. You mean to tell me that the Tennessee fans were okay going 7-5, 6-6,
right,
and losing to Kentucky?
Right. No.
Is that okay?
Absolutely not.
No, hell no.
No.
I am not going to be okay being a 500 SEC team.
Because every
I
time
am not going to be okay sitting on Selection Sunday with Kentucky being on the bubble, right? So I know they can find another coach to do it. How many chances are you going to get to do that? That's my whole concern is it might take a couple of rips to get it back. And if so, I understand it. The universe demands balance. I kind of get that. So there's that. So I am as frustrated as anybody, because last night's game, that is unacceptable. I refuse to be disrespected by South freaking Carolina in Rupp Arena.
We can't even look Katie Drzezinski in the face.
Since we had on the show, they kicking our butt all over. We got women's basketball SEC tournament, but she's not invited.
Man, I saw her there last night. We were still out here hollering about the Cox. I said, well, yeah, I'm sure they are. But is it complacency? Is it Dwayne Peavy not being there, friend of the show? Is it a combination of all of these things, aerobic, all these things?
I mean, the head coach is going to get the pub, right? The head coach those are the guys that get the big bonuses and everything like that. But you, like everything else, you have to have a great support staff.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell you right now, for example, Denny Crum at Louisville. When Wade Houston left to go coach Tennessee, 1, he left. 2, Allen Houston did not go to Louisville. And that was 90 or 91, maybe.
Yeah, that sounds about, yeah. Because my cousin went to school with him. That sounds about right.
So look at Louisville before and after Wade Houston left.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to have a great support staff to around you. And I think with Robick leaving, obviously, I think Kenny Payne, those two leaving, I think that's the turn. It's not that in 2015 Cal just started, he gave up or whatever nonsense that is. But sometimes, when the band breaks up, it's really, really hard to get the band back together. So I tip my hat to Coach K. And see, this is what Kentucky losing made me. I'm praising Indiana and I'm giving cover to Tennessee, and now I'm praising Coach K. But if you're going to be the head dude, you need dudes up under you.
And there's no way you can have the same trust, the same vibe with the guys that you replace with the Joel Justices, KT Turner, Chin Coleman. No disrespect to him, but you're just not gonna have that same years together that you have
Right.
with KP and PV, Dwayne, and it just.
And so, and that's the thing too is, I do think if given enough time, Cal can get this thing back. I do. You and I know we've disagreed with some folks, friends of the show, about that. I think Cal can come back. The problem is this is a big cycle, right? I've always said no men's basketball coach in Kentucky, you're not going to get that send off. That's not the way this works. Right? It's not the way this works, because this is what happens. Coach comes in, does something historically great. That becomes the bare minimum. Right? That's the fan base to make. All right, you did it. We need you to keep doing it. Yeah. Rupp couldn't do it. Right? Last one in 58 and didn't quite, I would have to ask some older people, but when he had to retire, it was no big fight to keep him. Like, hey, that title is old now, right?
Yeah.
And so Joe B comes in, wins in 78, has to endure that 84 tournament. Then it's like you don't get that second chance. Of course, Sutton is something different. I think Rick, he left because there was going to be a drop off.
Yeah.
And that to me is what makes the 98 team so special, is because they were the left behinds, right?
TD and Pope and all those dudes was gone, man.
Right. Mercer and all them. So
Mercer, yeah.
So Tubby was up here and just couldn't quite. I think had he pushed 03, 04, 05, might have been one of my favorite 3-year runs. Really good dudes, really good teams. One of those punches through, we have a different conversation, but wasn't quite able to get back. Time to go. And so I do think with enough time, Cal can or would be able to get it back.
How much time was enough time?
Well, that was before last night.
Because we to the point now, it's all the stuff that, even when stuff has been going good, that the detractors have been thrown out there, no X's and O's and all this kind of stuff. He's validating that kind of stuff with the way things are now. All the people that's trashing his offense, where the spacing is bad, all that. The presser, and after the Alabama game, somebody asked him, because I was wondering myself, somebody asked him straight up, what can you and your staff do better? And I'm like, this question need to be asked. Because I set up and, and the answer was just a little rambling. Yeah, we need to play better away from home. That ain't cutting it. And I got out, coach. I got to do better. That ain't fixing it, but it sound better. He ain't that guy. But
that.
You need Peavy here to tell you to say that right now, because a lot of his stuff he says is reactionary. Oh, the fans on me. Let me say something about the fans. Oh, let me say I hate losing. It's some reactionary stuff to the stuff he says in these pressers, and
right. And we make fun of Nick Saban, right? It's joyless murder ball, I think, is Louisville's Mark Ennis calls it. But and we could talk about the championship game if you want to. I mean, but when David Pollack told him that Georgia was king, and that look on Nick Saban's face, he's coming for y'all. Like if you thought that 7-year-old Nick Saban, that look said, "Oh, word, they the Kings, they won too," and he's like, he really like Thanos with all his ring. Like, okay, and keep in mind, I think I saw this. TCU lost by 58 points, right? Alabama and all their losses going back 6 seasons have not lost by a total of 58 points. That's what look, Alabama may not be what they were, but keep in mind, they only like 5 points this year is what they lost by total.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm still betting on Alabama
We knew
to
this
be Alabama.
Georgia squeaked by Ohio State. You knew TCU was going to feel the wrath because Georgia played terrible. Shouldn't even been there. For Ohio State can kick a field goal, Ohio State is beating TCU 45-7. So you knew once Georgia, Lord, we beat the Buckeyes. Okay, they was Cal says they're not machines. Georgia was machine come Monday night because you knew that was coming. That was unpredictable.
This is what I love about Kirby Smart. This is what I love. The dude is a genius. I'm not talking about X's and O's. He had those Georgia dudes thinking people doubted them. I've seen all these clips. Y'all said we was going to go 7-5. Who said that? Nobody said that. Now, I have seen teams, you didn't believe in us. Steph and the Warriors did that. It's only been rare that has ever applied. But every team, nobody believed in us. And I'm like, nobody said that Georgia was going to lose that game. And at the beginning of the season, a lot of people said, college football is kind of meh, but Georgia is still definitely the best. Like, but he had those boys legitimate believing that people was out here gambling against them, rooting against them. I don't think they can do it. No, man. Like, no. That only rarely does that come up. I mean, now, if Kentucky makes a run to a Final Four, we can say that. Cal can say it then because there's a lot of people saying, nah, that ain't going to happen. But congrats, Georgia. I'm just telling you, we're going to expand this playoffs. There's going to be a lot of these games.
And look, there's going to be whining. That's my thing. People whine about TCU shouldn't have been there and whatever. Maybe if Alabama gets in there, people whine about that. Alabama shouldn't have been in there. All the people outside the South that have the SEC bias, it shouldn't have been more than, one SEC team in there. Well, this way you don't have but one SEC team in there. And the Big Ten team, Ohio State, had them on the ropes, couldn't finish them off. Michigan choked out to TCU and couldn't even get there. And if Michigan had won, well, Georgia beat Michigan like a drum last year. It would have been and the Big Ten is supposed to be on the SEC's level. So people are going to whine no matter how many times they expand it or how they do it. It's going to be some whining every year.
Here is my thing. I explained to somebody who's a Ohio State fan, what's up with the SEC? SEC. What's that about? Because it's not even y'all. I said, okay. One, just generally speaking, the one area of the country you can make fun of is the South, is the American South.
Yeah.
You make fun of the way we talk. You make fun of the way we drink sweet tea. You like to make the fun, right? Everything bad. Oh, it's all the South. It's all the South. Blah, 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 blah. All right, fine. We have found the one thing, football, that brings everybody together. I don't know if you saw this in 2022, the top 100 television broadcasts, 85 of them NFL, other football programs. The top 85 out of the top 185, football runs America. So the South said, you know what? We are going to be good at this football thing. That is why Bear Bryant got Negroes to play. They got beat by Michigan State, and he's like, you know what? We need some Negroes to win. Can y'all stop being racist enough? And the Alabama folks said, you know what? We're going to be racist every day except Saturday. Roll damn Tide.
Yep.
Right? Am I right?
Yep. Uh-huh.
We can even say that about our school, Kentucky, when it comes about. But anyway, but back to football. We're going to be good, right? When the SEC said, you know what? Come on, Arkansas. Come on, South Carolina. Now we're going to have a championship game. Now every conference got a championship game. Like what? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You all said college football is king. We said we're going to be the best. That's what we said. It was the anniversary the other day of Tennessee winning the first BCS championship. When everybody said we're going to do this thing, because it's still dumb that number one team used to play in the Sugar Bowl, number two in the Orange Bowl, number 3 and 4 in the Rose Bowl. That was just dumb, and that's how we did it for 80 years. But we finally said, you know what? We got the system. We're going to make it work. 2 best teams going to play. Okay, great. Well, Tennessee won. Florida won. Okay. And then, well, Auburn won. Alabama became a behemoth. LSU every now and then. Like, am I missing anybody? I think Auburn, Alabama, LSU, Georgia, Tennessee, Florida. Anyway, that's more than everybody else.
Yep.
So the narrative is just Alabama. No, that's not true. We've won the last 4, and only one's been Alabama.
Yeah.
And before that, it was Florida, and I was in the East. I say SEC because I know y'all hate it. And when basketball rolls around, every year in basketball, I got to hear about how good the ACC is. The ACC going to get 10 teams in. I tell people, Louisville's in the ACC, and this. If you are tired of the SEC, beat them. Beat them. The Big Ten on semifinal Saturday, losing twice in the semifinals. And since the CFP's been going on, the SEC's combined to lose one of those.
Yo.
If you are tired of the SEC, beat them.
That's it.
Well, it's Alabama. That's supposed to be y'all's best. Y'all sending Ohio State and Michigan and
Yo.
Well, it's not Kentucky or Mississippi State. You're damn right it's not. And the ACC basketball ain't Virginia Tech. That y'all talking about ain't NC State.
Yo.
Well, it's a top heavy. And this is all I say, and I'm going to wrap this up. Our best, I'm talking about the SEC, is better than your best.
Yeah. Yeah.
Period. And remember, we had Coach Florio on, the former women's track coach of Kentucky. When you talk about the SEC, if you are competing for an SEC championship, the byproduct is you're competing on a national level because we win everything. If you win the SEC championship in football, you're in the driver's seat to win the championship, right?
Yeah. Yo.
Even in basketball. A lot of people say, well, it's just Kentucky. Yes, Kentucky, being the SEC's best, is generally better than everybody else's best. When it comes to women's basketball, Tennessee was the SEC's best, and it was the nation's best. Now it's South Carolina.
Yeah. Yo.
Kentucky, volleyball, SEC's best, winning a national championship. LSU and Arkansas track and field, you're winning the SEC. You can win on the national level. Baseball, South Carolina went back to back. Vandy, the only thing it's ever won on national baseball.
Mm-hmm. So one year was all SEC College World Series.
Yeah, we generally have like 4 or 5 teams of the 18 field.
And then
my point is,
just won in baseball. Mississippi State just won it in baseball. I mean,
right? The Mississippi schools don't win in nothing, but they won in baseball. My point is, if you climb the SEC mountain in whatever your sport is, you're going to be competitive. But football, beat them.
Mm-hmm.
If the kicker for Ohio State hit that kick as the new year came in, we're not having this conversation.
Exactly.
But it didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
And that's loser talk. Woulda, shoulda, coulda, whatever.
Yo, this was
because
2 Big Ten teams was in there. This was their year.
This was going to be their year.
It was going to be a rematch of Ohio State, Michigan.
And might I add, when we get there, we ain't getting blown out. Like I hadn't realized that Jameis Winston and Florida State against Auburn, like that was a touchdown with like a minute and change left on the clock. Like that came down to the wire.
Yeah.
I know when Alabama has you ain't never seen no SEC team get boat race like that. Now we have boat race teams.
Mm-hmm.
Florida boat raced Ohio State one time, and we've boat raced some teams.
Mm-hmm.
But you ain't seen no SEC team get boat raced on the big stage like that.
Not what back Nebraska got Florida way back in 95 or something.
Before the BCS. Before all that, but that's going. But that 95. You keep telling me we was young then.
Yeah, they got Florida, Nebraska. They got Florida and Tennessee. I think they blasted Tennessee and Florida. But like you said, that's pre-BCS.
That's pre all that.
That's how long ago that was.
I'm just of the opinion. Look, if South Carolina wins something, I don't particularly care. I just do it because I know it's going to aggravate everybody else. Yeah, SEC team won.
I'm
again, just beat them. Just beat them. Show us you want to beat us. Show us.
Mm-hmm.
It's that simple. You want to compete. Anyway,
we're gonna be. They continue to hate. Congratulations to Georgia for 2 in a row, and it was so predictable. TCU great. Glad y'all was there. Air raid stuff. Mike Leach with Sonny Dykes, so that was cool. But you knew it was going to end badly for them in the championship. But great season for them, and they beat Michigan, and nobody can take that away. So good stuff. But yeah, man, I'm on the SEC bandwagon too. Any in the bowl season or in the tournament, with exception of Tennessee, I could
Oh no, Tennessee got to lose in everything.
I can't root for them in nothing. But all the other 12 member schools, charter members of the current SEC as it's currently constructed, I'm rooting for them. I watched the bowl game, and I don't usually watch all the bowl games. I kind of I'm in and out on. I watch the regular season religiously, but the bowl season, But Mississippi State, Illinois, with the tribute to Mike Leach, I tuned in. They did a little pre-snap, take a delay game like Kentucky did for John Schlarman. I'm sitting there rooting for Mississippi State to win that. Ole Miss, now that brings up consternation for us as Kentucky fans because that's a win that Kentucky should have had.
Yeah,
and the way they ended the season, it was 8-1, and they finish up 8-5. But I was pulling for them in their bowl game. They got boat raced by Texas Tech, but whoever's in there, even Missouri, who I think lost theirs, I'm pulling for teams to win their bowl games, but. Because I'm on that SEC thing too. Because just try to gang up on us and make fun of us, and the clapback is the SEC football domination. That's
just beat them.
Mm-hmm.
That's all you gotta do.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, the teams that have broken it up. Yeah, there was Ohio State the one year. Clemson is still in the South in the SEC footprint. And I'm taking them by.
Yeah. Exactly. Speaking of Georgia, though, Ben Watson, who guy we talked about a lot a few weeks ago with, which I don't know if I even saw him on TV with the old Peter Burns thing. He went to Georgia and he tweeted out something I've been saying ever since we've been doing this show. We wasn't doing this show back in 2012, but had we been doing it, I would have said it then. But you know where Kentucky won banner number 8 in 2012. I thought, we hollering about number 9 way too quick. Banner number 8 was still swaying in the rafters. And let's get 9, let's get 9, let's get 9. Well, Ben tweeted out a tweet to basically all the Georgia family. I'm trying to find it. But basically, enjoy the moment is what he was saying. Don't get all caught up. He's talking about he's hearing a lot of back-to-back, repeat, no, three-peat and all that kind of stuff. And enjoy this moment and celebrate this accomplishment. Three-peat talk has started, but that doesn't matter now. Acknowledge this reward and be grateful for this journey. Too often we look to the next without experiencing the now. So Dog Nation already talking about three-peat. They ain't even had the parade yet. They barely just got back to Athens. We old enough to remember. I remember because I know you do, being a Laker fan. Lakers won 2 in a row. Brett Musburger, Pat O'Brien put the mic to Pat Riley's mouth and asked him about a three-peat, and Kareem covered up Pat Riley's mouth. Enjoy these 2. We done busted our butt. Let's not look ahead to the next. Let's pour this champagne that we just opened before we start talking about three-peat. But that's where everybody is now. We get the way too early poll. As soon as the horn said, "Oh, the odds for next year." Well, God, dog, they didn't give him the trophy for this one. So,
and that's human nature is to look ahead, but it's okay to appreciate the now.
Ooh.
Because as you and I talk about, and even if your team, you're the Yankees, I've had this conversation with the wife, right? 27 World Series titles.
Mm-hmm.
That's still a lot of not winning championships.
Mm-hmm.
Because you and I are old enough to remember the Yankees were poo-poo when we were growing up. We know what they used to be.
Don Mattingly never made nothing.
Right. And then they got good, we were in high school, but there was a stretch they weren't very good.
Mm-hmm.
And so what tends to happen is, and I talk about this when I talk about, Kentucky basketball, great coach does a great thing, and you mentally are like, all right, we can do this all the time. That's not how it works. Right? I've explained to you, I'm a Lakers fan. No team in professional sports has done anything that they've done over the last 40 years. 11 titles in the last, 45 years. But there's a lot of that starting lineup that I tweeted you yesterday, or this past week.
Yeah.
Like, who are these guys? They messed around and won, but there's a lot of, okay, let's turn the page. Let's and sometimes that happens. I think in making this more Kentucky focused, what's made Kentucky basketball so good is the abjectly terrible years haven't been there. The sub 500, the dreadful years haven't been there. Because when you look, Billy Gillespie's record wasn't bad.
No.
It wasn't, bad. I mean, it wasn't great.
40 and 27 overall.
Yeah, but not obviously not up to Kentucky standards, but not bad.
Yeah.
But just looking outside of, past couple of years, there haven't been just terrible years.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what has separated Kentucky from everybody else, is the average Kentucky team is an Elite 8 team. They've been in the Elite 8 more than anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
That is what to be and I've explained this before. To me, last year's team and the 2020 team that didn't get to play, those are your average Kentucky teams. You've got a great All-American level player, a couple of all-conference guys, and you go into the tournament with a chance to win.
Mm-hmm.
That to me, and that's what we are 75% of the time, which is better than everybody else.
Yep.
That is a
Really?
Kentucky team. The average Kentucky team is not the 2015 38-1 team. That is not the average Kentucky team. The average Kentucky team is not 2012 or 2010 or 96. Low key, have you ever looked at 97? I think we underrate the 97 team.
Mm.
That's the team that gets forgotten about. That team was good, and that's what Derek Anderson hurt.
Yeah.
But that team was good. So my point is Kentucky has always mattered. Are we going to be prepared to go through a period where they don't?
Right.
Because last night was bad. Are we going to be prepared? And I get it. Through the transfer portal and through all this, NIL, you can assemble talent a whole lot quicker. In basketball, you really just need one or two.
Exactly.
I get that. So that's a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
But it may be a year or two before that gets rolling.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, I'm not worried about Cal leaving if he takes next year's class with him to Texas, wherever he goes. I do agree with Matt Jones. That was always the bargain because you knew Cal was going to leave the cupboard bare whenever he left.
Right.
He's not going to stock the cupboards for somebody else.
Right.
You knew. I mean, that's just the way. That's absolutely the way it works.
Mm-hmm.
You know, most coaches like that, but you knew that with Cal.
Get you good immediately, like they said, which he did. But when it's out,
the cupboard's bare.
In the line is gonna hit hard.
Right. So but that's the deal that you make.
Mm-hmm.
And look, we're okay with it. I think if this is the end, you can say it ended badly, but we got some good out of it. I don't think you can, and you and I have talked about this before. This is what's going to happen. In 10 to 15 years, whatever happens between now and then, Kentucky gets a new coach, wins a title or two. 10 to 15 years, hearts will soften, and we'll be like, you know what? Cal was pretty good. You know how I know this? Because that's what happened with Joe B. Hall and Tubby Smith.
Uh-huh. Yep.
And that's you know, and I see people look, Rick Pitino ain't coming back. Okay, that ain't happening. But I hear, you know, you see stuff and you hear people softening on Pitino.
Yep.
Tom has a way of doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And no matter and coaches leave, I think our hearts soften for Eddie Sutton. You know, especially as his health was deteriorating.
Yeah.
But that's just what we do. We get a coach. He takes us to a great height. He doesn't get that second act. He's got to go. And then 10 to 15, maybe 20 years later, it's like, you know what? It wasn't all bad.
Uh-huh.
You know, I've seen people that years ago on Twitter would, you know, talk about 10 lost Tubby. And now when they retired his jersey, was it last year, year before? You know what? He had some really good teams. Yeah, he did. Yeah, I mean, yeah. You know, people, I don't know if we were fair to Joe B. Probably not.
Yeah.
That season without joy, that to me is not a banner to be proud about.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds miserable.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so can we talk NFL? You ready to talk some NFL football? We talked a little bit about it.
I'm ready. Uh-huh. I am ready.
So the Cowboys, did they make it?
Oh yeah, they made it.
Did they?
They
Okay.
in there. Absolutely.
Good for them.
In there, heading to Tampa Monday night. We're gonna be the last game of the weekend.
We're the first game. We're in that. You remember, like 4 or 5 years, the Bengals and Texans played on that weird Saturday night game.
Yeah,
That's what the 40. Because when I saw all the slots, I said to myself, "We're going to be that weird Saturday game because nobody's giving the Seahawks a chance." I'm not overlooking them, but most people, I'm like, of all the matchups, that's the one that's the least sexy. We're Saturday at like 4:00. All right.
Against college basketball.
Right. I can't watch it, man. A Saturday playoff game, sun's still up. Like I'm still like I still got to take care of my chores for the game. Come on, man.
Yeah, that is.
But I'm excited. We excited in 49er land.
I know you are. Yeah.
We are very, very excited. And I don't know. I hope they get to the Super Bowl. I've been on the record. There's nobody in the NFC I'm scared to play.
Mm-hmm. Don't y'all slip up now, because I'm all this excitement of Niner Nation. Don't y'all slip up.
But let me tell you something. I am so disappointed. I am very disappointed that the Packers lost to the Lions. I'm sad about that. But
I really meant to ask you that. I was wondering if y'all wanted to be the ones to do them again. I was like, the Niners want to do Aaron Rodgers again?
Again? Oh, well, I've got my videos of me dancing around being ridiculous. I only do that when the Niners put the Packers out of the playoffs. I got my new George Kittle jersey. I've been working on my moves. I had some dance moves. Like, we're gonna play Aaron Rodgers again because we was gonna boat race them. Had they come to Levi's boat race.
It was
so
bad. It was
I'm excited, man. I am definitely excited about the playoffs. Aaron Rodgers, look, man, we've had this conversation before, Vinny.
Props to Detroit because they knew they was out already. And Dan Campbell said, well, we just don't want them to go. That was his whole thing. I was like, okay, Dan. Okay.
Let me tell you something. Some people will tell you spite is not a good motivator. Sometimes, yes, the hell it is. We can't make it. You can't either.
And man, they went out and did it. They went out, and Aaron Rodgers in win or go home games. That was a playoff game at home. Beat Detroit and you make it.
I've been very good on social media because there's a lot of Kentucky fans that are Green Bay fans.
Uh-huh.
I was enjoying the Aaron Rodgers slander and the Packers slander. I was enjoying it. Did you see what the Detroit Lions social media team put together?
No.
Of all he was talking about beating Detroit, blah, 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 blah. Oh, they got him good. Oh, it was great. I need to find it and send it to you. It was great. I almost going to quote tweet it and be like, y'all still believe this dude? He told y'all when the 49ers are going to play in Lambeau, he's going to beat them, and he lost to Jimmy Garoppolo. But you going to believe this dude? Here is my whole thing about that. I am over Green Bay Packer quarterbacks. It has been, Vinny, a quarter century of NFL off seasons when you go to ESPN.com, NFL off season, there's always a subheading for what's the Green Bay Packer quarterback going to do. All that, 2 Hall of Fame careers for just 2 titles. Now, look, I know Super Bowls is hard to win. I understand that.
Mm-hmm.
But my Niners went back-to-back Hall of Fame quarterback, got 5.
Mm-hmm.
You would expect more than that. You would just expect more.
Mm-hmm.
I would.
mean, they
If
win
I was a Packers fan,
MVPs left and right, and the best in the league, and the franchise QB, all of that.
for me, I love it because I don't like the Packers at all. Point blank, period. But,
me neither. And the other team I clown down here is the Titans, just because, which I mean, everybody loves them down here, as they should. But they started 7-3. They finished up 7-10. Former Cat Josh Allen gets a scoop and score that sends them home.
Shout out
Jacksonville, baby.
to Jacksonville, who, talking about Cincinnati coming through it, Jacksonville, I forgot it was just 2017. They were in the AFC title game.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that was, but they went with Blake Bortles and, whatever. Yeah. But Jacksonville turned around.
That's an indictment of, that should be an indictment of Aaron Rodgers in itself. Blake getting to a title game, even though it happened once, and Aaron flaming out year after year after year. I'm just saying. I mean,
Jimmy Garoppolo went to 2.
Yeah,
and went to another that
another indictment.
When I talk about my hierarchy of Hall of Fame folks, and it's hard for me to say you the best ever when I know championships are a team accomplishment. I get that. But I mean, Aaron Rodgers, he may be the most gifted quarterback. Some people say, I don't know. But playing in an era where Eli Manning got 2 and you got 1.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And for me, it's, you look at, even Brett Favre. He played in an era where old 50-year-old John Elway got 2.
Mm-hmm.
Around the same time. So anyway, I'm glad that the Packers lost. I don't apologize for that. I was hoping he would go 0 for 5 against the 49ers in the playoffs, because they always circulate that draft day quote, 49ers going to be, then beat them in the playoffs, dude.
Yeah.
The best part is he lost 2 to Jimmy G and 2 to Colin Kaepernick with, I know, politics and all that, but people tell me Colin Kaepernick wasn't good. He was good enough to put Aaron Rodgers and the Packers out of the playoffs twice. Once in Green Bay.
Sure did.
And that's the thing too, is the mystique of Lambeau Field is gone.
Yeah.
Because they had that stretch when it turned 0 degrees, even when the Packers were terrible, you couldn't win in Lambeau.
Mm-hmm.
And now Eli Manning went there a couple, like Mike Vick went there, like it's like Kentucky Battle. Everybody's making their whole bones. Like, you let the Detroit Lions, I saw a graphic the other day. It was every NFL team and their last division title.
Oh, Lord.
And I'm looking, the Detroit Lions, the only team in NFL, their last division title, 19, but like, they ain't done nothing since 4 years before Y2K. But you let the Lions come in and push you around in Lambeau Field.
Sure did.
And Rodgers throwing them interceptions. That's what the Green Bay Packers quarterbacks do. Like, they love Brett Favre for it. He just having fun. If I'm on the Packers team, stop throwing the damn ball away. Take a sack, throw it away. What are you doing?
Oh, he's a gunslinger.
Right. Oh. That's why he's got 400 touchdown passes, 400 interceptions. Like, that to me is not a good quarterback.
Oh. No, not at all.
I would give me a game manager where I know what I'm getting.
Mm-hmm. Hey,
that's just me. You can win games with that. You can't win games with dude just throwing the ball willy nilly. Defense, like he gonna give us 2 today. We got to just take care of the 2.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm excited for my 49ers. Hopefully, going to another Super Bowl. Hopefully, we win this one. Been a while.
Can't hope for all that, but hope you enjoy watching your team. And I mean, if y'all win this one, that's fine. I can't pull for them after that, But I know y'all excited, and they've given you a good season and great defense, and Brock Purdy not screwing up, so everything's in place.
That's my only concern. Is, as I've told you before, when it came to Jimmy G and other quarterbacks, there's going to be some throws you have to make in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, if he doesn't throw the ball with his eyes closed, that's a step in the right direction for me.
Yeah.
But he's got to. There's going to be some plays, and can he make those plays?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so far so good.
Mm-hmm.
But this is big moment now. This is big moment time.
That's it.
And maybe not against Seattle on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
But to get to the Super Bowl, you got to make some plays, man.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm hoping we can stay at home and that assists. But
it'll be fun. Y'all kicking it off, so we'll all be watching. I'll be watching because that'll be right after Kentucky at Tennessee. Go ahead and get some Niners Seahawks because yeah.
And I need some of this, man. I want all my teams to be good at one time.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta tell the 49ers, don't screw this up, man. Like
all the eggs in the Niners basket Saturday.
Man. I'm gonna watch it. Now I'm on.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so let me go back. These are I know I shouldn't tell people how to fan. These are my least favorite fans. The people, I didn't even know the game was on. I stopped caring. Good for you. Good for you. You don't care. All right, fine. Was there a game on? I don't know. And then the people I see all these people sending out these tribute videos like the team's dead. I miss this team. Man, 2 bad seasons. 2. And people acting like the team is dead. 2 bad seasons.
Mm-hmm.
I wish it could be like it was. And I'm like, what? If you are a Kentucky fan over the age of 10, you have seen good Kentucky basketball. What are you talking about?
Exactly.
And if you're our age, you've seen different iterations. Did you like Cal going to 4 Final Fours in 5 years? Well, I like going to 3 straight championships. What are we doing here? Why? What are we doing? It's just no fun. Are you kidding me? I was talking to I don't know, I forget who it was now. All this chat. It's like, I get it. Losing to St. Peter's, that stinks. I want people to understand on the flip side of that is for every one of our good moments in the tournament and in basketball, there's a fan base that hates Kentucky.
Yep.
Right now, there is someone who was at the University of Utah in the late 90s that hates Kentucky.
Yeah.
4 times in 6 years, hates Kentucky.
Yeah, for sure.
So it balances out. You know what I mean? I'm still ride or die. Look, I mean, I'm still wearing my stuff around town.
Oh, yeah,
my coworkers got me. I went back in the office for the first time since the bowl game, and I meant to take a picture. I got a Hawkeye on my desk.
Oh, man.
I knew that was coming.
Yeah,
they got me. But
we made that one easy for them, so they got.
Oh yeah, I mean, it went the way I thought it was gonna go.
Yeah. Well, we'll get through Saturday, then I'll watch your Niners and roll on into the rest of the weekend. And
who the Cowboys got? Who they play? The Bucks?
Yep.
Yeah, I have to go with my birthday buddy.
Look, he's never lost to the Cowboys. It's about time he get one. 7-0 all time. So we need to put an L in that column for TB12 and give him his first loss to the dudes with the stars on the helmets. That's what we're trying to do.
And then he needs to go and try to be a family man because he 45, I'm 45. Time to move on, man.
Mm-hmm.
I told you that sound miserable. Young kids with their young music and all that, bebopping along. I'm sounding like you when it comes to movies.
Yeah, exactly.
And we got the hammer and the man in the metal suit. What did he fly around? What is that? The big green one. What is it? The big green monster. Look like Shrek. What was that? Get all angry. We didn't put that. Vinny describes your favorite movie.
Oh man, yeah, I'm terrible, man. I'm terrible. Hey, we gotta give a shout out to Michelle. Hope her son is recovering from surgery. So she said he was in ICU for a couple of days. So I hope he recovers. She tweeted out earlier that she was looking forward to listening to this. So hope she can enjoy the show as he recovers. And thanks to our guests, Mohammad Ahmad and Sierra Newton, for hopping on here with us. So hopefully, Michelle, you enjoy listening to all that, and we appreciate you listening to us all these years. And speedy recovery to your son, because no matter what stage of parenting you're in or how old your kids are, it ain't no fun when the kids aren't up to 100% and feeling good.
That's correct.
Doing that. So we're thinking about you and him and the whole family. So want to get that in. And TB, we'll try to do it again next week, and we'll have football to talk about. Hopefully our Niners and Cowboys keep our minds off of the bad basketball we see in Lexington, and we'll see whatever else happens and try to have some cool guests on. And appreciate you,
again, baby. That's right.
Free Network, and y'all keep tuning in. Appreciate you watching. We'll have it all out where you can listen. YouTube, Roku, all that good stuff here in just a little bit. But for right now, we out until next Wednesday. Everybody take care. Another episode of Cats Talk Wednesday.